In the last episode, Ilona, the postmodern oracle, shared with us one of the very important tools to use when we're feeling lost or stuck. If you missed it, make sure you pause and listen to part 1 of Unleashing Your Inner Wisdom, Tools for Deeper Self-Awareness. It is interesting because we are more in control than we think. Hello, and welcome to another episode of No More Distractions podcast. So, can we work together to create more peace and kindness? Ilona says we can, and we can all start by investing time on our self-awareness journey first. I don't know if you heard an episode I did with my sister, but she did post-regression, I think, hypnosis, where she traveled to her past lives. And she saw herself being like an old man in like an ancient Greece or something. I don't know, somewhere like back then. And it was wild, like the stories she said. But then I'm thinking like, it's great to see your past lives if you are able to access that. I just don't know what kind of benefit it would really have for me right now, since we are living the now and we're experiencing now. And I know I'm carrying history inside me. I know that. But like, what will it change for me if I know exactly where and how I lived in the past, right? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love this question because that just becomes a general curiosity, right? Like, well, where was I? But one of the reasons, because I could have gone back to school for psychotherapy, right? Like to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? But my understanding of what I was learning in grad school at a very high level is that psychology takes you where you are now and kind of unravels what happens in your past that's keeping you from being who you want to be today. And coaching goes, who are you now? Who do you want to be? And let's move you forward. And so for me, my energy is very forward movement directed, right? Like I want to take you to the next place. Some people, their past has such a hold on them that they can't even be in the moment, right? So for someone who's like past thinking or, thinking that they can't be here now because of what the past held, that's going to help someone more if like they can't even be in the moment. But there are people who are, okay, I'm here. I don't know where I'm going. Let's move forward. That's where like my focus is. And I don't think either is good or bad because, for example, I know people who have had a lot of trauma, like family trauma, military trauma, all sorts of, we don't even have to go, but there's so many. And that's all held in the past. And they do get to kind of heal that, rectify that, so they can actually enjoy being in the moment. At the end of the day, though, all of it is the journey, the in-the-moment journey. In fact, I was just having breakfast with a friend of mine. She was in town. And she said how she felt really guilty because she wasn't able to be present for her daughters this summer because of this anxiety that she had about her job. And so she just was kind of going over it, and I'm like, and there's this expectation that, if I do this other thing, that this is when I'm going to be able to do this. And I'm like, no. Getting this, putting all the expectation on a future experience is not the actual goal. The goal is, can you, despite the circumstances that life is throwing you, that astrologically, politically, informationally, work, right? If you can learn that despite all these outside influences, you are a person who has a purpose, who is here to learn how to connect and love and be of service to others, can you enjoy being in the moment? can you see something to be grateful in the moment? That's when you can actually enjoy any future experience, right? It's being in the moment and enjoying your journey is the joy. The journey is the joy, even if it feels painful in the moment. The journey is the joy. It is not that once you get to that up, it's the weirdest thing. I have a book. I'm an author. I'm an official published author. I thought that the moment this book was going to be in my hand, I would just have this like weird, like transcendental experience. I'm like, actually, the magic happened in all of the things that got me to writing the book. But having the book in my hand was not the transcendental experience. It's in the moment. And it's in the moment and like enjoying where we get to go, right? Because that's the other thing. Some people get paralyzed by not knowing where they're going to go. So can you be in the moment? Can you be in your holy instant, in this holy instant, and enjoy where you are, even if you're not where you want to be? Because that's being in the moment, enjoying the moment, no matter what's happening, is what's going to either allow you to be there or enjoy where you're going.
Yeah. No, what you said about like you can't wait till that thing to happen, and once it happens, like it's like nothing happened. It's so funny because it's almost like the same thing with a kid, right? They keep asking, "Oh, I want chocolate. I want chocolate. I want chocolate," and then once they get chocolate, then it's the next thing. But it happens to me a lot too. It's like I get so enthusiastic about an idea or something that I want to make happen. But I feel the most high, let's say, when I'm trying to make it happen. And then it's there. But I think it goes back to, well, yes, you did all the hard work. So, yeah, when it happened, of course, like it should happen, right? You worked so hard.
Yeah, you work so hard, and you think that this, like holding this, is going to do something different. It doesn't do it. Like I get excited when I see the colors. Like I'm obsessed with like the design, right? Like there's all these things where I'm like, this is so beautiful. I made this, but at the same time, holding this didn't shift my reality in a specific way.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's very interesting. And then going back to what I said about like, being present is more important than figuring out what happened in the past. I just want to say, I don't mean that it's that easy to be present or be mindful in the moment, right? It's one of the hardest things to do. I mean, our brain travels to so many places all the time.
All the time.
And there's so many things that happen. And like, I think it's beautiful no matter the distractions when we find a few moments to be fully immersed to an activity or spending time with somebody we love. I think these are the most beautiful moments. Like I literally sometimes when that happens and it feels like it's 100% happening. I have like tears of joy, right? Like when I'm realizing that I'm fully here. Most of the times I probably am not because it's just so hard and I feel like every day, right? I have an 8-hour full-time like job where it keeps me occupied, right? And yes, I'm very focused on that during these 8 hours, but there's so many things that could also pop into my mind, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like then I'm thinking it's great to focus on what that activity you're doing right now. But if that doesn't serve you, right? What if that brings you anxiety, fear? Like there's a lot of other things that being present could bring. So does it help to take a step back and see yourself in that situation from above, right?
Yeah.
So like you're still being present because you're trying to help yourself understand that, be grateful about being healthy, being surrounded by people you love, this and that, and not being overwhelmed by, that task that is happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like mindfulness. And I want to say it's as easy as shifting your mind, but in this world where we've been conditioned that everything's hard, it is a practice. That's why everything's a practice, right? Like, so if you're not used to, like you said, kind of taking that step back and being like, oh, wait, what's really here? You're not going to be able to have the holy shift. It took me 20 years of like doing all this work and studying all these things that when I'm in a panic mode, I go, breathe. What's the big picture here? What are we really afraid of? Like, what's underneath this feeling, right? Like, we have not been given the emotional intelligence tools to understand and have a relationship with our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts. Because we don't even know when something's a good or bad thought, right? And so practicing mindfulness, taking a beat, breathing, allowing ourselves a moment to breathe and be like, okay, let's just take a pause and see where we're at, rather than having to go 20 miles in the future or like 70 years in the past or even past lifetimes to figure out what we're doing. Can we just take a breath and be like, what is happening right now? Why am I feeling this way? I think the reason why all these things are so popular, Sonia, is because everyone wants to figure it out. There's no one way to figure it out. But at the end of the day, all of it is trying to say, take a deep breath. Where are you right now? What is your intention? What are you here to do? And what do you need to do it? Do you need a nap? Do you need a meal? Do you need a friend? Do you need a nap? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening, and what support do you need? It makes me think of the core mindfulness foundations. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kristen Neff.
I'm getting her newsletters.
Oh yeah. So the main core foundations of mindfulness, right? Self-kindness versus self-judgment. When we're in these moments, are you judging yourself, or are you saying something nice to yourself? Shared humanity versus isolation. Do you think you're the only one this is happening to? Or can you see that a lot of people are going through this as well? And then mindfulness versus over-identification. Are you like so entranced in the details of the problem, or are you like 40-foot view? What's really happening here? Okay, cool. Now I can see all the variables and I know how to move forward. Sometimes when we're in these mind panic breakdown moments, we're so like, we can only see the part that we don't like, that we can't see the big picture. And for me, all these tools, color, our senses, astrology, oracle cards, human design, any personal development, it's all popular right now because we are all desperate to not feel constantly panicked. We are all craving a sense of peace, of personal mental peace. And we're doing whatever it takes to reclaim that, because the world is happening fast. I feel like the world is like, everything's happening all the time now. Like, there's no break. You know, if it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not the globe, it's your personal life. If it's not your personal life, it's your community, right? There's always something. But yet, can you find the thing that'll keep you anchored and mindful so that you can move forward rather than being stuck in the problems?
Yeah. Can we? Hopefully within this lifetime we can.
I mean, I think the answers are there. I think we could experience world peace. I think there are ways forward. And I think that's ultimately the point. I think we're all here to learn that's our point. Mm-hmm. And so and I think that's another reason why all this stuff is becoming so popular, because the point is we're here to work together. And so the more people wake up to, we're here to work together, not separate ourselves into these little factions that keep us from working together. That's the point. So I've kind of had this surrender of like, my goal is to influence whoever I can, that you are a creator of your life, that there are tools to guide you in that purpose, if that's your intention, and that whether you impact 5 people or you impact 1 billion people, you've impacted, and that's what matters, right? Because I think the other thing, there's this desperation of like, I need to be an influencer, I need to be famous, or, you know, everyone must know my name. And I think, yeah, like some of us intrinsically have that goal and will work towards it. But sometimes, you know, saying hi to a stranger on the bus could have kept someone from jumping off of a bridge. And you don't need to know that. But that the fact that you stopped and just shared that kindness and shifted the ripple in the quantum field could be part of your purpose, could be the simple reason you're here.
Totally. I totally agree with you on that. And I just remembered that I recently saw a video from Deepak Chopra that he was kind of saying something similar, that with all this sadness and aggressiveness that exists in the world right now, the solution is that individually, every single one of us can become peace ambassadors. And by becoming that, you slowly start impacting your family, maybe your community, right? And it's a ripple effect. And like you're saying, maybe you don't necessarily understand that happening because you don't see it. You don't see the full picture. You don't see every single person that you impact, but that one person might impact their neighbor, right? Like you don't know, but it's worth trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me feel a little emotional this last conversation, because it's been in my head a lot too. It's like how do we make an impact in this world, and it's not about becoming famous or being known. It's just how can we contribute little by little to something better, anything better.
Yeah, and this is why I started with astrology. I'm going to be honest. There was a famous Puerto Rican astrologer, and he's the one who I joke is my mentor. Even I met him when I was like 8 years old, so I can't really say I studied with him, but like I watched him every day for 20 years on TV. And he would sign off all his astrology shows with que reciben de mi paz, mucha paz, pero sobre todo amor, which means, can you receive from me peace? Lots of peace, but overall lots of love. And that's how he would sign off his astrology sessions, right? Because I really understood that, like for Walter, like when you understand astrology, you understand everybody. And you can actually access peace, because it's like, oh, it's not that person's a jerk. It's, hey, that person is this sign and they're being impacted by the planets in this way. And I'm not being impacted in that way. And so maybe I need to give them some grace and maybe help them out instead of like judging them because they're being a jerk. And that's how we contribute. So for me, astrology is love. It is the pathway to personal peace, which can ripple into global peace or collective and community peace, because we stop holding stop holding our truths as the inevitable truths for people who are not living the life we're living, and allows us to bridge and be like, oh, okay, you're a little quirky because of this Aquarius placement. Like, that's awesome. How can we make that a gift instead of something I use it as separation? And that is, when you know your chart, you trust yourself enough to be the ambassador of peace or be your familiar. Because like one of the things in my chart is, my father, like I joke that my dad died, like saying like, he wished I got married and had kids and had a family. But in my chart, a lot of the focus is on my career and reputation. That's what inspires me. And I wasn't trusting it. I wasn't trusting it, Sonia. And I was like, oh, I should be trying to like find a family, start a family. But like my fulfillment, a lot of my chart is through my professional. And now that I've gone all in, I'm like, I trust myself. And when I do charts for people, I see how people have denied their truths and their paths because of the collective agreement of like, you have to live life like this and this is what success looks like. And when people start seeing what's in their chart, they're like, oh my God, okay, I have permission to trust what my soul has been saying and not what the brain and society has told me is good. Then we can actually not be at peace with ourselves and give that peace to other people, because we're not projecting our frustrations or our angers on others.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Like what human design can really do. I mean, I allow people to really find their path if they haven't found it, or just actually listen to their heart and what it's telling them. It's beautiful. And I totally agree. I mean, I've always tried to listen to my intuition more than it's the logical way of doing certain things. But a lot of people operate with logic, right? And especially engineers like me, have been taught to really like analyze everything, right? Cost benefit analysis on every single thing, understand what really makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what are the pros, what are the cons, right? And some people use emotional intelligence more on how to lead, how to make friendships, like how do they go about their lives, right? So what would you say to someone that is trying to be a leader in their community, but maybe they've been struggling between using their logic versus listening to their heart, and is there like a one way to go about it? Is it a balance of both? Is it more leaning towards one or the other in different scenarios? I don't know. What do you think?
It's really interesting because when I think of logic, I think of logic. What is logic but like this pattern recognition, right? Like engineer, like don't get me, like I don't want an engineer like feeling it out to build a bridge. I want them to know the exact patterns and the exact data necessary to make sure that bridge is not going to fall. Patterns and logic are necessary for technical things. Like I don't want a doctor to feel out where I might be sick. I want them to use, the exact, like I don't like if I like need my arm is broken and I need it put back together. I want a doctor to know the exact steps to make sure it doesn't get infected, right? But humans, like human relations, while there are patterns, that also keeps people stuck to limitations based on our assumption of patterns, right? Like my thought is when we lead with our heart, not with the logic of pattern, right? And we go, hey, what's happening here? What are you feeling? Let me connect with your heart rather than with our minds. Then you can actually expand someone's possibility. Like I think about people who go into prisons and help people in prisons, become leaders and become community, contributors. It wasn't because they logically put something together. It was because they had this heart connection that allowed that person to open their heart to create a new possibility in their lives. And so when we treat people as an assumption without connecting to them heart to heart, then we're just kind of perpetuating, people being stuck in our assumptions instead of actually giving them the free will to flourish into something different. And so, yes, we want people and technicians to use their logic in their field. But when we're building communities, when we're impacting other people, the heart is actually where the shift happens from human to human.
And I think that we can tell somebody, use your heart when you make the decision or when you have this interaction, right? But not everybody thinks that it's that accessible at the moment. Right? I think that everybody might be in a different stage in their lives or in their awareness or self-discovery to get there.
Yeah.
So is that also like a journey, a practice, like we say, mindfulness and all of that to be able to tap in deeper to that self, but not just for your own awareness, right? In your connection with others.
The first thing that came up for me when you were saying that is vulnerability. I don't think that people don't know what they need to do. I don't think humans in the modern world have been given enough tools and access to practice vulnerability, right? Because the reason people are like, oh, I don't know how to do that, is this assumption is, I don't know how to do that in a way that I know it's going to work out. Rather than saying, okay, I'm going to trust that I came in with good-hearted intentions to shift this person, and they might not receive me, but can I trust to be vulnerable enough to not waver in my intention to help this person, even if they're resistance, even if they misunderstand me, even if they don't get it, because I'm coming with a vulnerability. I'm open in my heart to find a solution, to bridge this connection, to create a shift. because we've been conditioned to do it right, that it has to have an outcome. And sometimes vulnerability goes, okay, I had that conversation, it didn't go well, but I care enough about this situation, I care enough about this person, I care enough about this family to keep on trying, because my heart is open, vulnerable enough, not because I'm going to get hurt, but because I care enough to stay open to be the shift that they're not being, that they need.
Wow.
I think everyone has that possibility, but we've been conditioned. Oh, they hurt me, I'm going to close. Oh, they don't like me, I'm going to shut down. Oh, they didn't understand me, we're done. Now, this is not to say we get to stay in abusive places, but this says that in important matters, can you stay open to be the shift instead of being shifted?
I like that. Being the shift instead of being shifted, yeah.
Can you stay open enough for you to be the shift? That's my experience of the world. As soon as something doesn't go wrong, we shut down. We're like, no, we're never going there again. Vulnerability says you are strong. When your intention is solid, your heart can stay open even in the most difficult of moments.
Yeah. I think it's also when we grow up, it's just like vulnerability is not being taught. It's not something that like it's encouraged in school or anywhere else. And I think even more for males, unfortunately, it's even harder. Like the stigma and the prototypes and the role models that are out there is just, we're not being encouraged to be vulnerable. And I'm happy because I feel like recently I do hear like, I don't know, I want to call them like activists, but like, you know, ambassadors, let's say, of vulnerability and a lot of people that come out and share stories that are hard to share, that they've been hurt, but it really opens up the door for others to either feel more open to share something similar, or just more okay that it's not they're not the only ones that happened to them.
It reminds me of what we were talking about in family constellations, where when we hide things, it perpetuates. Men have been encouraged to hide their feelings, and so the opposite is perpetuating the toxic masculinity, the one to control anything that's opposite of them, the holding on to the sensitive side, right? And until these conversations, in family constellations, they say when you start talking about these things, when you take out of the hidden that which has been suppressed, then you start giving it room to be witnessed, and then it doesn't have to be that way. And so you're absolutely right. Now that we're in a place where we have like I wouldn't say it's a rise, because I see some of it, but I don't think it's like a move, like a big mainstream movement yet. But we do see some men saying, hey, we should talk about this. This isn't working for us. It's making space for what gets to be healed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure human design might help with that too, right? Like understanding maybe some people are more closed up than others, so it's harder to find that vulnerability. And then how can, once maybe you understand how important it is, how do you also influence the others around you or encourage them to get there? And I mean, having conversations in general is so important in like any relationship. I mean, that's how you clear the air. That's how you explain your needs and what is important and what doesn't make sense or what hurts you, right? So I feel like it's all connected. Like I feel like we've touched a lot of different things, but like you said, everything is a tool to help you get to the next stage of like your awareness and your greater self, right?
Awareness is the first stage of behavior change. You want something, if something wants to change in your life, if you don't start with awareness, you're not going to be a new person, because you're not even knowing what needs to be changed. And that's what all of this is. Family constellations, human design, astrology, oracle cards. it is not the thing. Kind of like when I was saying about the friend who's like, oh, when this happened. No, when your reading happens, it's not, your life is not going to be different. When the reading happens, when the oracle card reading happens, when you do the journaling, that's the first point of saying, mind, I've opened up into a new way of thinking. Now I have space to see where I get to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I did my yoga teacher training, that was the time where I feel like I had the most like aha moments and realizations, because I was putting a lot of effort towards the reading, the journaling, the focusing on myself. And it's harder the more you like do other things or get distracted, or you basically your energy kind of shifts because you're also within other people's energies. So it's definitely a challenge and a journey that never ends. But I think with this conversation we just had, we should like invite everybody to never give up like in this journey, that it's not like a next day or a month or like a master class that they can take and they're going to like reach that awareness right away. It's going to be, I feel like a constant and ever ending journey. Yeah. And like you said, like all these tools are out there, they're available. Like anybody can reach out to you to understand more about their human design, maybe work on your journal, and like who knows what's next, right?
Yeah. And just to remember that it's all a practice. Like nothing's going to happen overnight, but the more you're committed to being on the journey and just being open. I love a quote that the more I know, the less I'm certain of, right? It's not about like, this is the way. It's like, oh, now there's more ways of thinking, more ways of seeing, more ways of feeling, more ways of expressing. Nothing is definite. It is an exploration.
Totally. I'm so glad that we got to do this today. I really like, I wanted to have another episode with you for a while, so I'm really glad that we made this work. I know you were so busy with writing, and you're still writing, and it looks like that's gonna keep you busy for a while, but I'm very excited for the new book. Any idea of when we should be expecting it, or is
That's
it
a great question. I
say?
think it's going to be faster than the last book. It's interesting. I've learned about the publishing industry. It can usually take, a year after you finish a manuscript to be published. I think this might be quicker. So definitely check it out. Be open for 2024. 2024 drop for sure.
Okay, 2024. Amazing. Are you doing like any tours or anything, or mostly local events?
That's a great question. I'm in the moment, so I haven't even thought about that. But yes, I would love that. Let's put that into the manifestation realm.
Great. I'm going to put it out there for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah. You matter. Like you're exactly where you need to be, and you matter. Like stop thinking that you're not where you need to be, and that right where you are can take you to where you feel you get to go.
Thank you. I feel like you said that to me, but it was to everybody. But it makes me feel better.
Yay.
Awesome. Thank you, Ilona. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Ilona always brings me back to earth. No need to stress about the future, but everything is how it's supposed to be, here and now. If you're listening to this right now, your journey has already started. If you feel like you're currently in alignment, all you can do is stay consistent and keep tapping deep into your intuition. If you feel stuck, start researching all these tools and how they can help you to accelerate your journey. To learn more about Namaste City and this podcast, please visit namastecitylive.com and feel free to drop us a message by visiting the Contact Us page. You can follow Namaste City on Instagram or Facebook. If you have not already done so, please go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Thanks, for listening to No More Distractions by Namaste City, hosted by me, Sonia. Today's episode guest was Ilona Pamplona. You can connect with her through her Instagram page at Ilona, Ilona, Pamplona, Pamplona.